Hi, this is Module 10, and in this module, we're going to be looking at analogs to Hansel and Gretel. What do I mean by an analog? It means other versions of stories that share commonalities with the Hansel and Gretel story. And as you'll remember, we looked at the Arn Thompson-Utter classification system to look at these commonalities and the function of the tale for earlier tales. So we're going to be continuing on with that in this segment, this module. So the learning objectives are to examine the analogs to the Grimm's tales, to remind yourselves how to use the Arn Thompson-Utter classification system, and to understand the intersection of the folk tale with the fairy tale, which is that murky area that we're really grappling with throughout this semester, and scholars continue to grapple with. So that's pretty much what Module 10's learning units is going to be about. Let's talk now more specifically about how we're going to approach this material. I would say that it's quite a dense week, so you're going to have to hit the ground running with this one. So in this unit, you're going to be looking at what constitutes the oral folktale, its function in communities around the world, which is very important. We haven't talked much about audience. We touched upon it a little in Module 9, but now we're going to think more about audience, right? We're going to think about tales going all around the world, all of these tales that grew up independently of one another and yet have characteristics that they share. So by examining this intersection of the folktale with these other cultures and the fairy tale culture, because out of the folktale, or as a subset, Carthy would say, of the folktale is the fairy tale, correct? So you're going to come to understand the interconnectedness of these two genres, and they are really inextricable in some tales. Other tales, of course, are far removed from the folktale genre, as you have seen. This module builds on the Grimm's Hansel and Gretel tale, which you looked at last time, by looking at analogs from North America, in particular African American folk tales, and from India. So while at first you may not see the similarities, if you look at the tale types, and this is very important, so don't forget Arn Thompson-Utter classification. If you look at the tale types, you will have a starting point from which to draw comparison. Okay. So Arn Thompson, as you know, started the system, and then Utter went on and added to that system. Actually, they all added sequentially, really. And it's a very useful way of looking at the tales. But the problem with this system, as some of you will have discovered already, is that it is Eurocentric. What does that mean? It means that it was probably written by white Europeans for white Europeans and looked at white European tales in large measure. Now, in later years, it was added to, and you will find some tales from certainly other European countries, and the odd one here and there from other countries of the world. But for the most part, they leave out Asia, India, and Africa, which is most of the world, in fact. All right, so you're going to have your work cut out for you when you start to look at this tale through, or these tales, these analogs, through that lens, because there really is almost no language in place to talk about them, except for how you will make those peripheral connections and then draw your own conclusions. So we're waiting for some budding scholars among you to start some classification systems that apply specifically to these tales. I think a couple of scholars have done smaller versions for African tales, but it's by no means comprehensive. And anyway, I'm digressing. So let me get back to the point here. So as I said, it's by no means definitive. It's a starting point. All right. You're going to be applying and extending the work that they started. So in this module, you're going to be reading The Magic Flight, wonderful tale, African American tale. And you'll read another one called The Red King, or The Two Little Princesses, which is an Indian folktale. And then you'll be revisiting Jack Zipes, but only pages 333 to 338. Very important that you reread that, okay? And that's it. Good luck.